welcome back to Maysville, Kentucky Simple Living. As I'm crossing the Simon Kenton Memorial Bridge here in Maysville, Kentucky, I realize the old girl is 93 years old this year. But let's go back. Let's go back to the year 1931, during the Great Depression of the United States of America, and see what it was like getting this old girl built. So stick around. Let's talk about it. Front page story of the Public Ledger newspaper, 3 February 1931. To sink anchor pier into ground 25 feet deeper. The story states, announcement has been made that it will be necessary to sink the Kentucky pier of the Maysville Bridge 25 feet further into the ground to a depth of 38 feet below pool stage. This has been made necessary, Superintendent Edward Weiler stated Tuesday, in order for a solid foundation to be reached. 19 February 1931. Roebling Sons Company asked permit to work on bridge. John A. Roebling Sons Company of Trenton, New Jersey, have applied for a permit to use the following described equipment to erect the main towers on the piers of the suspension bridge across the Ohio River from Maysville, Kentucky to Aberdeen, Ohio. It is proposed that they use a tower boat consisting of a structural steel tower approximately 200 feet high, equipped with a 125-foot steel boom, erected on 2 steel barges, each having an approximate overall dimension of 30 feet by 130 feet. 13 March 1931. Work on local span over river goes forward. Kentucky anchor pier to be sunk only 2 more feet. Roebling Company setting up 209-foot tower. Favored by a mild winter with very little snow until the 1st of March, the Dravo Contract Company has lost very little, if any, time on account of the weather. On Friday, there's just 2 more feet of digging to be done under the Kentucky anchor pier. A little bit of drama going on. March 17th, 1931. The scene of considerable amount of excitement Tuesday morning shortly before noon, when an explosion occurred in the cab of a Caterpillar derrick of the J. A. Roebling Sons Company. The mishap took place when the engine of the derrick backfired, causing a can of gasoline to become ignited. 4 men were in the cab at the time, and 3 of them jumped or were half blown to the ground. Fortunately, none were seriously injured, and all of their hair singed, their clothing scorched, and suffered minor cuts and bruises. All were able to report back to their duties Tuesday afternoon. Next article I could find regarding the bridge was 26 March 1931. First piece of steel is to set in place Thursday. Erection of the bridge of steel work starts as 25-ton piece is lowered into position at 10:35. With rain interfering with the start of the work Wednesday, the erection of the cable tower above the bridge pier in the river on the Ohio side was begun Thursday morning. The first piece of steel, a huge piece weighing 25 tons, was the first to be set in place. It was lowered into its position on the east side of the piers, topped by the erection crane at exactly 10:35 in the morning. Another boo-boo happened while this span was being built. Catwalk cable falls, causing excitement. Break on spool slips, allowing cable to unwind wildly. No one was injured. The catwalk strand sagged in the water. Lying on the bottom of the river between the river piers, it was allowed to remain there during the night. The cable was not raised Saturday, but was left to remain in the river over Sunday. 6 April 1931. River causes delay in work on local span. The Drayville Company forced to quit pouring concrete. The Roebling men work overtime. With the river being so high that it is impossible for the trucks to be loaded from the concrete mixing boat, the pouring of the concrete for the Kentucky Anchor Pier has been abandoned by the Drayville Contracting Company. The Roebling Company superstructure contractors report some interference by the rise of the river, being forced to work a crew of men a number of hours overtime in order to make their barges secure. 5 May 1931. First cables are strung Tuesday for local span. Tramway cables are first to be run across the river. Catwalk strands will follow next. 2 cables were strung Tuesday, the first being started across the river from the Kentucky side to the Ohio side about 9 o'clock. Contrary to general belief, these cables, known as tramway cables, are only temporary, being strung for the purpose of spinning the main cables. The cables were taken from the Kentucky Anchor Pier to the river pier on this side, then up over the tower, allowed to drop to the river, where they were picked up, taken across the river by boat on the river pier of the Ohio side, then up over that tower to the Ohio Anchor Pier. 23 May 1931. Work begun spinning cables for local span. First strand started across Monday morning at 11:10. Cars of steel and cable arrive. Being unwound from large spools on top of the Anchor Pier on the Kentucky side, the cable is carried across the river on the tramway, cables being pulled across by an engine located on the Ohio side. 61 of those strands will make up a large cable each, which will be 13 inches in diameter. 8 June 1931. November 15th is date fixed for span completion. Information obtained by Ledger Monday. Spinning of cables finished Monday afternoon. Stick around. Let's see if they actually make that 15 November date as completion. 27 August 1931. A rare treat for those that subscribe to the Public Ledger. There is a 5:7 picture of the Maysville Bridge right on the front page, courtesy of the Kentucky Post. Pictures were seldom posted in newspapers in 1931. The Public Ledger newspaper gets it right again on 28 October 1931 with a 5:7 picture right on the front page of the Simon Kenton Memorial Bridge, to be dedicated November 25th. November 1931. The headline states, hundreds from other counties view span Sunday. Maysville Bridge is thrown open for inspection between 2:30 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Automobiles bearing license tags from dozens of counties on both sides of the river were seen in the vicinity of the Kentucky approach. Several hundred persons walked across the imposing span between the hours of 2:30 and 4 o'clock when the bridge was open for inspection. It also says hundreds of others arriving after the time the bridge was closed to spectators for the day were disappointed in not being able to traverse the span. 24 November 1931. Span dedication program given out for print. Ceremonies will start at 10:30 when the officials meet in the center of the bridge for ribbon cutting. The program states 10:30, meeting of Kentucky and Ohio officials in center of bridge. Unveiling and dedication of tablet in memory of Simon Kenton by Limestone Chapter number 1557, National Society, Daughters of the American Revolution. Benediction by Reverend Robert Von Thurn of Maysville. Music, My Old Kentucky Home, and disband. I found a rare treat in a daily bulletin for 25 November 1931. New bridge to be opened this morning. The entire front page of the newspaper was dedicated to this bridge opening, talking about all of the activities going on. The crowds began to throng the city at early hour. Indications are that a number of visitors may exceed the 10,000 expected. Wow, for Maysville, that's awesome. This is interesting. Great demonstration expected. One of the greatest demonstrations ever in this city is expected when the fire bell tolls about 11 o'clock following the cutting of the ribbon in the center of the span, which will mark the formal opening of the bridge. Factory whistles, locomotive whistles, sirens, auto horns, and other noise-making devices will send forth their message up and down the valley, announcing the long-awaited tidings. The force and volume of the demonstration will undoubtedly surpass anything of its kind ever heard in this section, but will be of a friendly, peaceable nature. Wow! The streets of our city are beautifully decorated for the occasion, with vari-colored electric lights being suspended across the streets overhead, and a small holly trees bedecked with colorful light bulbs adorn the standards of streetlights. Merchants have taken exceptionally pains to arrange attractive window displays, and nothing has been left undone to provide pretty setting for the event. And this little paragraph ought to make all the city's school kids happy. They get an extra day of vacation, courtesy of the bridge dedication. The Simon Kenton Bridge was originally a toll bridge. It cost 55 cents for an auto up to 1943, when the fee went down to 40 cents. Pedestrians were charged a nickel. The bridge was freed of all tolls and removed on 1 January 1946. Just 6 years later, during the 1937 flood, the old girl's toll booth was underwater. She couldn't even escape the flood. As a result of the Silver Bridge disaster on 15 December 1967 in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, all bridges are inspected annually. How about a few more of the 93-year-old girl in color? The Simon Kenton Bridge as of spring of 2024. The old girl don't look too bad after all for being 93 years old. Thanks for watching. Remember, Jesus does love you. And we'll catch you sometime soon on the next adventure of Maysville, Kentucky Simple Living.